All right. So the first thing I want to remind us is that when we write an equation in slope-intercept form, it is written as y equals m times x plus b. And that tells us everything that we need to know. M is equal to our slope, and our b is the y-intercept. Okay? So your slope tells you your rise over your run. Your y-intercept tells you where it crosses that graph. Okay, so here it just gives us some information. And if we're reading the instructions before we do the actual operations, that's super important. Okay, so you should have written this down on your paper or in your notes or on a note card. All right, so it says, let me zoom in a little bit. It says, write the slope-intercept form of the equation. So one thing that I know that doesn't change in my slope-intercept equation is y and x. Y and x stay the same. Y is always y and x is always x. Okay? So I can say that my equation is going to say y is equal to something times x plus my b. So my x and my y, they don't change. I can always start my equation like that. What does change is my slope and my y-intercept. So this tells me that my slope is negative 6 over 5. So where m in my equation is, I can write minus 6 over 5. Where b is in my equation, I want to write what my y-intercept is. What is my y-intercept? So I'm going to say plus 1. And that's all I have to do for 1 and 2. Go ahead and do number 2, and then we'll make sure that you guys did it right. So do number 2 right now. All right, so let's check to see if we did this right. Remember I said y doesn't change, and neither does x. Okay, so what is my slope? So I should write 3 over 2x, and what is my y-intercept? Positive 2, so it's plus 2. If this had been a minus 2 or negative 2, I would write not plus a minus, but just minus 2, right? How many of you guys got that one right? Excellent. That's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Right, so let's look at number 3, though. Number 3 also wants us to write our slope-intercept form, but it is currently in what we call standard form. Okay, so right now it's in standard form, and I want you to write this down. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. That's standard form. Right now, our equations are in standard form. Okay. We're going to change them into slope-intercept form. And that means using our list. Okay? So we're going to use our list. So if you have your list of steps, go ahead and take it out right now. You have your list out. Okay, so we're going to change this into our slope-intercept form. Right now it's in standard form. So the first thing that I want to understand is that I want my y by itself on this side, and I want my x on that side. So I'm going to look at my steps. Do I have parentheses? No, so I'm not going to use distributive property. Do I have any like terms that I can combine? No. So I'm going to go to the bottom part, right, and I'm going to look at adding the opposite. Can I add the opposite? Yes. So we're going to add the opposite. Okay? So by adding the opposite, I mean I need to move this 5x to this side by adding the opposite to both sides. So what is the opposite of a positive 5x? So I'm going to add negative 5x, which really is going to give me 0 on this side. And I'm going to add negative 5x on this side. Because of 5x minus 5x is 0. So that's going to cross out, right? So I'm going to bring down, what do I have left? What do I have left on this side? Negative 7y. Make sure you bring down that negative. If you don't, it's going to cause some problems for you and give you some incorrect answers. So make sure you're looking at the sign of that y and bringing it down with you. Now to put it in slope-intercept form, do I want to bring down my negative 21 or my negative 5x first? I want to bring down that negative 5x because that's going to give me my times x and then my plus y. What is my plus b? What is my y-intercept going to be? So instead of plus b, it's going to be minus 21. And then I'm pretty close to being done. Because my goal is to have a positive y on this side all by itself. Right now I have a negative 7 times y. So to undo that multiplication, what am I going to do? Divide by the coefficient or y or whatever's in front of y, which is negative 7. So I'm going to divide everything by that negative 7. Okay? So remember, a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive 1y, but 1 is shy, so we're going to say y. I can't simplify or reduce this or divide it without coming up with a decimal, and I want that fraction rise over run for my slope. But a negative divided by a negative gives me two positives, right? So my slope is going to be 5 over 7 times x. Now I have a negative 21 divided by a negative 7.
3.
So they're both positive, right? So it's going to be plus 3. And this is what I wanted you to do. I wanted you to write it into slope-intercept form. So all we're doing is writing the equation of the line, because now I can graph it. Now I know what my slope is, and I know what my starting point is. Okay, so far so good? Yeah, be careful. Well, minus a negative gives me a plus, right? So let's look at number 4. And remember, what's in front of x right now? 1. So let's put a little 1 there. And let's go ahead. I'm going to have you guys do it just like we did number 3. And you're going to turn it into slope-intercept form. And then you're going to check your work. So go ahead and do it. All right, so if we did it appropriately, we only need to follow the last 3 here, right? Adding the opposite. So I want to move this positive 1x by subtracting 1x from both sides. That becomes a 0. I'm going to bring down what I have here, right, which is my positive 2y. I'm going to write my negative 1x before my negative 4 because I want to keep it in slope-intercept form. I don't have a positive y, but I have a 2y, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this and undo it by dividing everything by 2. This becomes 1y, or just y. I can't simplify or reduce negative 1 over 2, so I'm going to leave it as negative 1 over 2 times x. I have a negative divided by a positive, so that's going to give me a negative intercept. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so my answer should be y equals negative 1/2 x minus 2, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, you guys are going to do number 5. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 6. And this is also super easy. We're going to just take that information that we know, and we're going to graph it. And we're going to write, so this time we have a graph, right? We have a graph. So we're going to take what we know about this graph and turn it into that y equals my slope times x and then my b. Okay, so what do I know? Do I know my y-intercept? Where does this line cross the y? Right here. What do we call that? So my slope is my intercept is negative 3. I can write that down. I can also figure out my slope, right? My slope is my rise over my run, right? So I just need to figure out where is another point that it crosses. Does it cross here? Does it cross here? Does it cross here? Where does it cross? It crosses here. That gives me my best line there that I can see. I have bad eyes, so for me this was clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my little triangle and I'm going to complete this triangle. Okay, so if I'm going from left to right, did I have to go up or down to make that triangle? I went down, so I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So this gives me a negative 4, right? Because I went down 4. Now my run is going to be, so I'm going to write negative 4 as my rise. My run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right? My run is always positive, and it's always to the right. Justin, you should be paying attention. Okay, so now I know what my y-intercept is, and I know my slope. Can I simplify or reduce? Let me move this over. Can I simplify or reduce my slope? No, that is what it is, right? So I'm just going to add it into my equation as y equals negative 4 over 5x minus 3. Right? So that's easy peasy. You just have to make sure that you're really careful to know exactly where it crosses. Kevin, your question? Yeah, let's say for example, my rise was negative 4 and then run was 2. Could I simplify or reduce this? Yeah, then it would become minus 2 over 1 or just negative 2. Okay? Any questions? 7 and 8 are exactly like that, and so are the ones on the back. So really the ones that you're going to spend more time on, I would work on finish up number 5 right now, and then work on these. Number 7 might be a little bit confusing. Look at it really quick. Where does it cross the y-intercept? Right here, right? So that's what? Where does it cross the y-intercept? B equals what?
0.
B equals 3, right, Matthew? Okay, but there's no slope, right? What is my slope? What does m equal? 0. So let's write this down. So y equals 0 times x plus 3, right? What is 0 times x? What is 0 times x again?
0.
It's 0, right? So I don't need to include that. So y is equal to what?
3.
Okay, so that's the tricky ones. But if you substitute 0 for no slope, then you got it made. Okay? All right, finish it on your own.